and we're back. So this is obviously a different style of video. There has been so much complaint about Johnny, so I feel like I had to touch back in and make another video. This one is definitely gonna be more counterplay based. Probably the only one I'll do for the characters that got changes in the recent balance patch. I don't think Elfel or Bedman or Zato or any of those other characters like Axel, for example, have been making enough noise to get another video. I mean, obviously, Johnny, people have been talking about him, the tier list. He's supposedly in the top 10 now, which, again, I have no opinion on. But, I brought someone on that does play the character. I brought on Unbiased to say what's up.
Yeah, y'all.
But yeah, no, I feel like there's just so much to talk about with this character now. It's weird, though, because from the patch, he didn't actually get a lot of changes, which is very weird. But, yeah, so I guess the first thing I'll ask you is, what's one thing about Johnny that people misunderstand?
Well, one thing I see a lot when people are blocking against Johnny, especially in the corner, is that they'll try to FD him out. Here, just block for a sec. They'll try to FD him out, and they'll spend all this money, or all this tension on it. Look at your tension gauge. They'll spend all this money trying to FD him out, but his giant buttons and the fact that his dash back-ends are really hard to check means that you just end up spending all your tension that could have gone to a YRC.
Okay.
So I'd sum it up. I'd say that people don't really know how to use system mechanics against him.
Gotcha. And would you think IBFD is good, or Deflect is good, or IB, or any of those?
I used to think that IBFD was. It's hard to show off.
Yeah.
But I used to think it was good, or at least I think it was bad against Johnny. But I've seen this string especially, if you can IBFD fire slash, if you're possible to do on command, that pushes him out really far. So that really narrows his options down for block strings.
Yeah.
If I got IBFD here,
you go for
trying to get back in and go for block string resets, that would be hard. I'd have to pop card to reliably enforce my pressure and things like that. Okay. So I would say that's good. And Deflect Shield, however, a lot of the time, Deflect Shield is not as good against Johnny because for the same reason that tension is bad. Because if you try to Deflect Shield, yeah, exactly. A lot of his strings, a lot of his strings put him in a place where the Deflect Shield, isn't really what you wanted to get.
Gotcha.
You see, a lot of his strings, you can react to getting pushed back most of the time if you're really paying attention.
No.
So the fact that most of his strings ended in misfinder cancel, and then I just, SMF right there if you try to press anything. And even if you don't, I'm minus 15 all the way over here, so you don't even get any reward if you block it.
Gotcha.
There's just not much, and it costs half of your burst gauge. There's not really much, there's not much use for Deflect Shield against Johnny, just because of all the range that he has.
Okay.
And so, if he was a character like Soul, Soul gets pushed all the way back. He's got stubby buttons. He's got to commit a lot more to get in and to maintain that sort of, aggression that he wants to, but Johnny doesn't have to work as hard to stay in after something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah.
And I guess we could talk about I think this is the biggest thing. So obviously you talked about the misfinder cancels. How should people be representing their options? Should they be mixing up between dash block and mash? Should they be taking a different approach? Or what's something that other people do that you struggle to fight as Johnny, defensively?
Defensively, I'd say that as Johnny, if there's very aware of their spacing, staying out of KMF range and checking your dash ins, which is hard to do, then the matchup becomes a lot harder because, even though his dash is a lot better now, it's still 15 frames where I'm coming towards you and I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And my defining neutral button, misfinder right here, if you're spacing yourself around it, under it, over it, it's hard to if you jump or IAD. Well, Zato can't really do that. But okay, so Zato's a bad example, but most of the cast can just IAD right over it.
Yep.
So if you're being mindful of what I can do in neutral, then it's going to be a lot harder. Especially if you can find the sweet spot between staying out of this range and also avoiding these buttons, which are very whiff punishable. then the matchup becomes a lot harder. I have to start like flinging myself across the screen with vault YRC or PRC, or maybe even meter sleep if I'm getting a little desperate. I'd say that spacing and like being really conscious of my buttons is something that gives me trouble.
Okay. But what about in pressure, though? So, for example, most times people, they block Johnny, and, you know, you're obviously mixing up between stance canceling and frame trapping with Misfiner, or, you know, maybe a dash in, since it's so fast now. What should people be mixing? Is dash blocking the best answer? Is, like, what do you think? Maybe looking for the chance of mashing on a Misfinder cancel. What do you think is the best way to get out of Johnny pressure without a card on the screen, of course?
That answer is kind of hard because Misfinder cancel gives Johnny so many options and things that he can do and like mix up and alternate. So there's no real concrete way of getting out against Misfinder cancel and Johnny, like just block strings in general, no meter, no card.
Yep.
It's more like patience, I'd say. Like, how much are you willing to like respect these cancels, especially if they're doing them a lot?
Gotcha.
Because it's not like plus or anything. I'm sure everyone knows it's not plus, but you know, the spacing makes it difficult. I'd say the easiest way to get out of a like pressure like this is just to IAD, because none of his buttons. The only thing that reaches upwards is this. That might catch an unlucky, like a poorly timed IAD, but even then, that's more up to chance than anything. So yeah, if I had to suggest one way, if he's getting pushed out a lot and like trying to press buttons to get back in, I would try like even super IADing. That too, because it's hard to get out on your own, get out with your own buttons in spacing like this, because it's so hard, it's so scary really to contest Johnny when he's got all this stuff all the way over here, and most characters don't have a button that goes this far.
Okay. And okay, so you're in your idea, the best way to get out if he's trying to force his way back in with buttons after like a Misfinder cancel is IAD.
If I had to,
Okay.
if I had to give one concrete way, I would try like IADing out.
Okay. And I guess we can talk about Misfinder. So obviously it got the buff of going farther. Obviously you mentioned trying to play around it in neutral. It is still minus 15. I do think a lot of people forget that, but how good is it? This is not really a counterplay question, but how good is the Misfinder from last patch to now? Because before, I think it was, in Johnny players' opinions, correct me if I'm wrong, it was one of the worser moves in the game, and now it's potentially one of the better moves in the game. So,
well, Misfinder last patch, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like incredible. Like you could stuff the zoning from characters like Testament and Asuka, but it wasn't nearly as consistent and it wasn't nearly as rewarding as it is now. But you see, Mistfinder post buff, it defines matchups, especially like I just said, zoners like Asuka and Testament.
Yeah.
Mistfinder, this button, this will kill any Asuka you ever fight, because they're trying to set up their cubes full screen, they're trying to manage their things, and it gets a counter hit, and then I get a conversion and a wall break. Yeah. So I'd say that Mistfinder, I think it's the same thing for Testament. You can get hit by everything Testament throws at you and still do a Mistfinder. Like she can throw bird, do her little skull thing. It does not matter, because there's you're in stun for so little time that if you just Mistfinder again, chances are you're gonna get a counter hit anyway. Did you see that one tweet Yoho made about Johnny?
I can't remember it, but I will put it on the screen.
Fair enough. They added Arc System Works and started complaining about Johnny. Completely warranted, because we played the set before, and I was getting hit by all their zoning. I was like making conscious efforts to try, duck and weave it, and I just Mistfinder, and then I'd win. Yeah. So I would say that Mistfinder now, as compared to last patch, completely different special. Probably, I don't want to say I wouldn't call it the best special by a long shot. That goes to Clone, Happy Chaos Clone.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's probably like top 10, maybe 15 specials.
Okay.
It's really good matchup defining.
Gotcha. Okay. And I guess we could talk about, alright, what about flip? So, obviously, there's a lot of talk about flip. I think it's right now considered by most, like, the neutral skip in the game right now. But it's more, I guess, the counterplay around it. So talk to me about what's the best way to avoid flip, if there even is one. And then after you answer that, then talk to me about the options off flip, because I do believe if you get to the lowest point with the card, you can make it -1.
Yeah, so if we're talking about strictly meterless wallet here, the absolute best it can be is -1, which gives way to a lot of RPS situations.
Yeah.
So if I flip and I get -1, you can mash, which will beat mine.
I pressed wait.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Oops. Okay, we'll get it right one time. See, you'll beat my match by a lot. Which means the other thing, and you'll see this from most Johnnies, at least on layer 1, or like most Johnnies you'll fight will do this first time. They'll flip, they'll get a good one, and they'll backdash. Because that puts you right in range of far slash, guard crush, dash in, now they're getting their pressure. So that's the most common option, just because it tends to be safe unless you go out of your way to bait it. But you see, if you go out of your way to bait it, like you press a longer button, 2B.
Yeah.
So, and that's RPS. I think people tend to overlook, like they know it exists, but they're not like sure the particulars, especially like I'm sure tippy top players, but like the general player base isn't really sure about.
Yeah.
Is those situations, especially after meterless vault. And then I'm trying to think.
What about backdash?
So to call it backdash, I'm not sure if Zato has any good buttons for it. Oops. That's the one change. If you hold it down, the card comes out instantly. Honestly, not a big fan of that buff.
Yeah.
Like it's honestly kind of annoying, but that's more me than anything. Anyhow, if you're to catch my backdash, I think maybe Zato. I'm not sure if Zato far slash would work, but let's give it a try. It would.
Okay.
So you see that, and then you start your turn. You get your stuff because you guessed right on meterless vault.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I know like Chaos 2D, Kai. Like I've been hit by souls who they completely ignore the card. They just run up after and do close slash when I get hit. So, but the thing about all those is that you have to really extend when I could just,
What about the opponent backdashing? What do you think about that?
That is actually a lot more rare. Actually, oops, sorry. I keep messing it up. I actually don't see a lot of people backdash there. I always see them because like what I think happens is that they know it's minus. Actually, if I'm being honest, some people I thought it was plus. So that just goes to tell you how little people really know about Johnny.
Yeah.
And this, not plus at all. Can never be plus unless you beat wires. Fuck PRC. My bad. Anywho. So I'm honestly a lot less certain about your backdash options because, truth be told, no one ever seems to do it there, at least against me. So after your backdash, try to do far slash. Okay. Well, I think we've discovered the RPS. If you try to backdash, far slash.
Yeah.
And how fast is Zato far slash?
10.
10 frames?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I'd imagine it's not as... Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, one time that happened, I caught a Kai backdash, and I got a aerial far slash conversion, which is like even better. So, I'd say generally, trying to backdash against the meterless vault that's blocked and it's +1 is ill-advised, unless you like really commit to two backdashes, rigid style.
Not backdash button.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that because you'll get sniped real quick unless they press like 6H for some reason. In that case, you'd win, but they would never do that.
Okay. So basically, backdash is a safe option if you don't want to get into the RPS, but don't commit to a button. And then if you want to play the RPS, it's either chasing his backdash or guessing on his mash after the vault.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
And that's at the very best of times. Like you could like totally mess it up like I kept doing. No one Johnny will mess it up that bad. But like, oops.
Yeah, you just throw that.
Yeah, you just throw that out. But if you time it, I'm not sure of the particulars. If I'm being completely honest, I'm not sure about the particulars of like not perfectly timed. But I know Soul can get a punish with his 5K. Yeah. I know a lot of the time it's just very space independent. But if they mess it up, you see, that was perfectly timed. You're out of throw range. But if I mess it up, like, oh damn it, I keep doing it right. Anywho, if I mess it up, like, see, it's punishable by throw. But that situation is a lot harder to recognize, especially in the heat of like a game. So if I had to like, I wouldn't bet on throw most of the time, unless you're like, if you're unsure about trying to punish ball, I would just press a button. Okay. But if if you're like, wow, he really screwed that up, easy throw punish.
Gotcha. All right. And what about, I guess the next move we'll talk about Innsanga. So, Innsanga, obviously, it's -3, or is it 4? Is it 3 or 4? I believe it's 3.
It is 4.
Okay, it's -4. Most people don't really know what to do in this situation afterwards once it's blocked. So, talk to me about the RPS after that.
Well, Innsanga, without any meter, -4, it pushes you out. Most of the time, I'm not going to be like completely right here. I'd probably be like blocked right around here. So yeah, that pushes out far slash, which is the button every Johnny wants to press all the time. It's supposed to be his like safe, like designated safe ender, get out free, can't be punished. I'd say that a lot of the time it's tricky to really. It's hard for both people, but I'd say probably the opponent more than Johnny, because like we've been over this. Johnny has ginormous buttons, designed around being ginormous. So even if Innsanga's blocked and it's not my turn anymore, if you just throw out like a random button willy-nilly, it's nice.
Yeah.
Like, whoops. Or if I want to be so certain, just missed fighter. Get my reset pressure. So I'd say that no Johnny's gonna want to do. Well, no Johnny that's paying attention is gonna want to do far slash, because if you do far slash after if you block Innsanga, see, it'll get clapped by everything, because that's 4 more frames where I can't move.
Yep.
So I'd say that the typical Johnny is gonna try to back up and react to what you do after Innsanga, because that's what it's really meant for. It's spaced at a range where most of your buttons aren't gonna work, and I have a free
play around spacing traps.
Right? Yeah, spacing's a big thing.
Okay. So what would you advise for the opponent to do here? Is it more of a dash block angle? Should they just wait? What's the?
I think it's more of a dash block angle, because if he used Innsanga and he's not trying to dash back in or something, like I don't know, something weird like you wouldn't normally do, then I'd say dash blocking is the way you want to go. Because there's nothing I can really do here that's gonna really, like, if you try to dash block against me, danger. Like, any Johnny's gonna press like maybe even if they're pressing like 5H or 6H, but you'll have enough time to block that, and then I can't really do anything besides like back up even more or do another Innsanga, which just leads to the more situation.
Gotcha.
And what else did I want to say about that? Danger. I had something super smart I was gonna say, and I can't quite remember. No, we'll come back to it if I remember.
For sure. I guess the next thing I'll ask is round start situations. Okay, obviously Johnny has a 9-frame far slash, so pressing on him is very risky, but a lot of the times people will. What do you think, if you're not going to challenge with a button, is the best thing you should do versus Johnny at round start? Because obviously Johnny players know they're playing around with the 9-frame far slash, so sometimes they might dash. I see sometimes MJ might press 6H or a committal button to catch the backdash. They might 6K to catch your backdash, or the Johnny player will just wait for your whiff button and then red wall assault. So what do you think are the best options to represent versus Johnny round start? Or best options.
Best options. Well, if you're not gonna try to beat him and like, you know, because of what we talked about. If you're set on the defensive, I'd say the best thing to do is really just wait it out. Because, like, if you just block here, like,
yeah.
Now what? Now I get a card, I guess. That's about it. I mean, card's good to have, of course, but it's not like, you know, like, it's a decent situation for me, but it's not like game ending.
Yeah.
You're like, you know, it's not like incredible. I just have a little bit of an advantage in neutral. Because, you know, like you said, if you try to backdash round start, you'll get clipped by 6H, maybe 6K, matchup dependent. And then that's wild assault into, you know, hard knockdown. Then it's just, and then, well, now I'm just winning.
Yeah.
So, and this is the thing this is the same thing you employ against other Johnnies, because his buttons round start, it is like RPS.
Yeah. So
the best thing to do, unless you're a round start demon, is to just wait it out.
Gotcha.
Because if he does press fire slash, then like
the situation's not scary, is what you're saying.
Yeah, there's not really much I can do unless I like, you know, if I committed to the dash, 30 frames, 32 frames if you count the thing, anyone's gonna be able to press and then get their stuff started. So yeah, really, I just say block if you're certain. Like if you don't know your round start options, if you're not sure what to press, I would simply down back, and it won't be the end of the world.
Okay. And I guess next I'll ask you about, so okay, obviously Johnny's Oki isn't always consistent, right? Because sometimes the card could be too far behind, it could be, you know, so what are some options as far, I know there's some 6P options in there that people can represent, I know there's some DP options people can represent. Where can you RPS on your wake up, or on the opponent's wake up, where Johnny doesn't directly have the card above you?
So you're talking about like me trying to
push me into the card.
Well, you see, that's kind of actually, I can think of a few things. Well, maybe one thing, but it's not consistent. So, like you said, every Johnny's going to try to play around getting you to that card for them good plus frames. So, I'd say it depends on what they're doing. Because not like, one of the most popular Johnny block strings is this. This is throwable. This is fake. Do not let them do this to you. Like if you throw after close slash, boom, fake. I mean, it's certain space dependent. I'll give it that. Like here, if you throw after close slash.
I couldn't. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you see. So if they're getting in your face and things of that nature, that's throwable. But that's just one little knowledge check. Another little knowledge check I see, especially in the corner, is that they'll have a card set up and they'll go 2K 2D this. This is, you can actually jump out of this. Or at least I know it, yeah. See? So, but the scary part about this is that, here we go, hold on. I don't have to do that dash forward at all.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I'd say that getting out of it just comes down to what strings they're doing. Like this.
Yeah.
Well, that with the card completely. But if they're going like gapless, like things like this, there's no getting out of that. You're holding a true block string.
What about the dash after the 5H? Is that fake? Is that mashable as well? So if there's a card and you do 5H into dash misfinder, what about that?
It is very dependent. You have to have like, I believe, no, it's funny. This has not happened in a while, so I'm gonna be honest. I don't quite remember, but I believe it trades with 4 frames.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, but you're right, because I remember MJ. I've actually talked to, a good friend, has mentioned that characters like Geo, for example, can mash out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also, I believe 6K. The frame data on 6K. I don't know if you can. Honestly, you know, we're gonna find something new today. So see if you can mash out of this. I don't think you can. No.
Because tackle level 3.
Ah, so true. Alright. But try to throw it.
Yeah.
But that's one niche scenario. Not worth doing, really. If I'm being honest. because I just don't have to do it. And that's the thing about Johnny. Like all the stuff you're thinking about doing, that you're thinking he might do, he just like doesn't have to do. And that's the scary part, is that he has so many things he can do all the time. Truly. So you're always thinking about it. Mental stack's a big part of Johnny's character identity, I think, especially in this game, because misfire cancel isn't the insane 0 startup frames it used to be. So it's much more like it's much more dependent on getting your opponent to be scared of you, I think. And Johnny's great at that.
I know one of the common strings is, for example, if I get hit with an SMF here and then you throw a K card, the 6H is actually 6Pable, which a lot of people don't know. Oh, wait, I fucked up.
Well,
there we go.
Yeah, it is. It very much is. And if you mess that up, well, this is much more spacing dependent. So let me get the 6H, and then I'm gonna do a dash forward. Whoops.
Do you want me to get hit by the 6H or block the 6H?
Block the 6H, and then 6P this dash forward.
Yeah.
But that is much more spacing dependent. So, okay.
Zonal 6P might just be like a little good.
Yeah, maybe it is a little good. But that does tend to be more spacing dependent. Like I've tried doing it in the mirror and I've gotten clipped for it.
Yeah.
So if you are planning on mashing, you see this winding up 6P. And then because like no one ever tries the 6P because no one thinks it would be 6Pable. Like to that degree. So yeah, good pointing that out. I forgot to mention.
What are some things? So I've heard the argument of Johnny struggles versus low profiles and good 6Ps. So talk to me about if those are useful, how should they be used versus Johnny? Because I've heard Happy Chaos 2K, Testament 2K, Jacko 2K. He can't get past them. Obviously, he doesn't really have a move that beats low profiles. I believe 6K also loses to low profiles.
Very much so.
So, talk to me about Johnny versus those.
Well, I neglected to mention this before, but if your character has some sort of low profile option, that's going to be good when he's doing these like block strings in the corner, especially against far slash. I've run into Axels who'll do like I'll be far out of range, and they'll do a 2K just to duck my misfire. Now I'm minus, and it's their turn again. So low profiles in scenarios like these are really helpful when he's just resetting and pressing buttons. Especially something like, Night Raid Vortex, because, I try to do like 5H. Night Raid Vortex right under, I'm getting clipped. So, like low profiles like that are good, but I'd say like, the low profile 2Ks, definitely more situational, a bit more of a risk. Like I've run sets of Testament and I bait out the 2K, now they just got whiff punished and it's crouching confirmed too, so now they're getting more OP than they would have gotten. So, it's scary to do. I'm not sure if it's like the best option to smash a low profile 2K, but if your character has something, like a Night Raid Vortex or a
Stun Dipper or something.
Or a Stun Dipper, something something in that vein. Then that is going to, that's going to, put off a lot of tension. So pardon the pun. But even that's not good because Johnny, his buttons are decent at checking things like that. So if we're just mid range and you're throwing out, if we're mid range and I'm like this and you're so bad guy, I can just cancel into 2S if you try to Night Raid Vortex. So I wouldn't say low profiles are going to save you in the matchup, because if they're conscious of it and they're looking for it, then it's gonna get the forward advancing is gonna get stuffed and 2Ks are gonna get baited. But generally, if he's not looking for it and he's being sloppy, then those low profiles are going to hurt. Because even when I'm looking for those 2Ks, I will still mess it up a few times.
Okay.
And,
sorry.
I was gonna say I'll mess it up a few times and I'll get ducked, and then I try to do it again and it gets ducked again. That's happened a few times. But I'd say low profiles are good against Johnny, but they aren't like, you know, gonna carry you through the matchup.
Gotcha. Okay. And what about, so, post situation of blocking the card pop? So, obviously, one thing I believe it was Pep told me, which people need to remember, is once you block a close slash, Johnny can't threaten throw. That's one thing. And two, I was told by other Johnny players that throw teching is very bad versus him. Just because, obviously, the threat of Innsanga, and yeah. So talk to me about the situations, if there's anything people should be doing more after blocking the card while you're dashing up, and yeah, and then after I'll ask you about the options players have after blocking overhead from the card pop. So example, if they block, let's say they block the TK, what are the options there? Like the situation looking, what's the situation looking like?
Well, even though you did block the TK, Johnny's still plus here, but I will concede he is much less plus than he would have been otherwise. Like if I just, but instead you know this TK much less plus. So I think that you'd have to look at the spacing of like where I end up after the overhead, because you know, like if you would FD, oops, they call me the dropper. Ah. See, now I'm all the way out here, and it's harder to really challenge against Johnny out here for reasons that I said before. So after blocking the overhead, I wouldn't really try to do anything.
Just kind of wait.
Yeah, I'd like, you know, I'd pardon the pun, but I'd play it by ear, and I would just see like where he ends up, because it's gonna be like I'm sure like if you tension block, I'm pretty sure 5H loses 6P here.
Yeah. Oh.
Boom. Boom. Oh. I think anyway.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. But you see, 6Ping in that range especially, it's all overheads. Boom, boom. That, or,
yeah,
and then I get my pressure all over again. So you see, I wouldn't really try to 6P. Like I said, you just gotta kind of wait it out. Because then I can do that, and then if I'm pushed far back away, maybe I can even go for another like tension 50. I can just go for another card.
Yeah.
So it's just because you block the overhead and he's in like a worse situation doesn't mean that his turn's really over. Just because, like, depending on where you are, like he just gets worse OP, or like worse, not OP, but like worse pressure. So yeah, I'd say just wait it out. Or if they're like, this doesn't happen often.
Yeah, not too often.
Yeah,
it definitely can though with the right mental stack. It probably can.
Yeah, but like you don't see it because most Johnnies end up pretty far away. I'd say like dashing back in isn't something you'll see often, or at least not from me. Here, try to throw my dash back in, because this is not something I've lapped. Yeah, it loses to bag throw, and I can't do anything there. So yeah, that's something. In short, I would say 6P if you're feeling lucky, but if you're rational, just wait it out.
Okay. So it seems like a lot of the options versus Johnny are, or the most, I guess the best playstyle versus him is to be more patient.
Yes.
A lot of it is spacing traps, and a lot of it is mental stack, so it seems like kind of just waiting while people are scared to block a normal from Johnny. It's not as scary as it might seem. And I think that's a problem people have with Sato as well. I think most people just block like a far slash and like, oh, I have to burst. Like, it's over, right? And they're like, you know, when in reality, it's like, it's more of a slow down type of moment.
Yeah.
What about throw tech versus Johnny? How good is that? So obviously, let's say I block the card and then you dash up. Is this like a never situation? Yeah.
Well, that's tricky to answer because you're very like Uwa. Uwa is a big fan of the card pop dash and throw.
Yeah.
So you'll see that a lot from him. But the thing is, It's a strike throw situation. There's no real way to, like, advise it. Just because, Innsanga, while helping, like, end block strings, I'd argue that its bigger purpose is just to catch the throw techs. And even if you do throw tech against Johnny, like here, bar slash. But I will concede, bar slash tends to lose to 5k in those spacings. I mean, it's not through 5k, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, I'd say that like throw teching, like if you tech the throw against Johnny, it still can be scary. Just because even if you do 5k and like I'm out of range or something, I walk back, boom, fire slash, that's a punish, hard knockdown. And Innsanga will take your lunch money if you're like constantly throw teching.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's where the mental stack comes from, because I can mix it up. Sometimes I go for a throw, sometimes I don't go for a throw, sometimes I go for Innsanga, sometimes I go for gapless to try to catch you mashing. So yeah, no, I'd say honestly, if you had to, I'd probably just take the throw.
Okay, that's smart. And I guess one of the bigger knowledge checks with Johnny as well is the post wall break situation. This is if you break the wall. So obviously the situation after wall break is you see a lot of Johnny's doing dash card, or they'll just throw a card like without the dash. What are the knowledge checks here?
Well, I'd say that typically, should have done the shorter one, but Johnny's throwing cards more times than not. That means they're scared of something you have already.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I just do that, that means like I'm sacrificing a lot of my OP to try and be safer. Like if I could break the wall again.
What about after dash card though? After wall break they do dash card. A lot of the times, people don't know that if they do the dash P card that you can super jump out.
Yeah.
That's one thing I think people get heavily knowledge checked by. Or they'll just do regular card and they block it, which is I'm pretty sure this is just backdashable, correct?
Yeah, after wall break. The thing about that is that it is backdashable, but it's ill-advised because oops, I messed up the dash cancel. It's ill-advised because more times than not, you're gonna get clipped by the longer hitbox. Now you're in the corner. I have a card set up, and now I'm getting more OP.
And so for there, just super jump.
Yeah, typically you're just gonna want to super jump. That is how you get out of that. That is completely how you get out of that. Do not let Johnny set that up on you. It's very silly. You should not be letting him set up a P card on you. One thing I also started doing is probably if I'm being completely honest, it's probably not the best thing you want to do after OK. Like super jump Jade is going to be what you want to do. But because of the dash changes, Johnny's dash is now fast enough where he can dash up twice and get a close slash. Very neat. So that's one thing to look out for, but you're not going to see most Johnnies do that. Most Johnnies are
scary, right?
Yeah, it's not that scary. You're like, I'm just getting like a little string, like mid range string from it, which you're gonna see a lot, all the time. Most of the time, if you don't have a reversal, you're gonna see the jump in stage. And I'd say Johnny's okay here if he has meter, which he's going to have meter eventually because of the wall break. If he has meter, then it can be scary. Because overhead, and then I'm just going. But you see, if Johnny has no meter after wall break, then honestly, it's not even that bad. Like it's not that good, is what I'm saying. Because I just do my little block string. I'd have to commit to something pretty pretty substantial to get a real turn. If I really, because Johnny's block strings when he doesn't have anything set up, like he doesn't have any. Like it's just buttons. They're not that good. they're really relying on like not checking dash back ins and spacing. But there's one thing I wanted to talk about that I see people miss all the time. Probably no, not as much as the P card thing. Is this double overhead that I get away with against everybody after wall break. And so you'll see super jump IAD, boom, double overhead.
Yep.
And it looks plus, it is -1, meaning you can mash there. So, and that is something that I knowledge check people with all the time.
Yeah.
And then, it gets me the free knockdown. Another free knockdown, it breaks the wall. I'll get a hard knockdown because I'll have the other positive bonus. Do not get hit by that, because if you get hit by it, Johnny's basically won the round.
Yeah.
And then, but if you know to mash, then... And the thing is, most Johnnies are going to press after that -1, just because no one ever checks them for it, ever. So, I would... If you're doing this a lot, mash. And one trick that I personally don't use, I just, like, from being a Johnny player myself, you just kind of, like, see when they input it, you know? Mm-hmm. But one trick you could use is listen for the super jump cue. That'll give it right away, now you know what to look for.
Gotcha.
But now I'd say after wall break with meter, Johnny's, like, messed it up. That's supposed to be a BRC.
Yeah.
Like so. I'd say Johnny would have to do something like that, or just go like straight into an overhead to really like enforce mix-ups. His mix doesn't come from making you like, okay, well it does come from making you block, but his like mid-screen mix potential isn't that like as strong as some other characters.
Yeah.
So you want to be scared of Johnny when you're in the corner, and his buttons are good for putting you.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm trying to think. Well, I believe that's all of his special moves we went over. We went over the post wall break. We went over how to deal with flip, obviously meterlessly, and I guess the main lesson or point is to be more patient, like I said earlier. Kind of let him kind of do his thing. He's going to try to spacing trap you. Obviously, due to the Misfinder buff, he's going to try to spacing trap you. Especially characters with longer normals now, just because he can compete with those. But it seems like playing aggressive versus him is just not the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, there are times when being aggressive will work. Like, Johnny's buttons are not wow, you know?
Yeah.
And they tend to be pretty slow. So if you can get, and the fact that their hitboxes aren't very good. So if you're respecting him too much, you know, if you're just down backing, you're scared of these buttons, you're gonna have a harder time. So I'd say it's patience, but it's knowing, like, so it's like, it's patience until it's not, basically. Like, knowing when to, like what to look for.
Gotcha.
Basically. Okay. Like, if he's just doing this, then, like, Zato could do a pose, because I'm just waddling around. Not pose. The body shield one, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's close.
Oh, okay. I'm not a Zato man. One more thing I did want to go over is that I'm not sure if the general public knows this. Oh, I know they do know it, but the thing is, I'll hit them with overheads, like jump cancelable overheads, all the time, and then, you know, that's his main mix-up. But like, people, I would just say, like, if he's going for, like, if he does close slash and he's got like 50 meter, that's when you want to start looking for the overhead. Yep. Like 5k, close slash, things like that. If he's throwing, especially 5k, like if he does 5k in a weird place, like that, that's what you want. You want to look for those overheads. So, you know, that's just one general tip that's going to help you. If he's doing jump cancelable normals, keep an eye out for the overhead. The thing is, Johnny also, I'm famous for messing it up. Johnny has, you know, he can just go straight into overhead.
Yeah.
Honestly, that really is just more of a reaction thing. And from playing Johnny, again, just playing Johnny, it's something you know how to like see, how to spot.
Yeah.
Not when they dash in. I don't know. It's just like easier. It's weird, but it feels like it's easier to react to because I do it. You know.
Yeah, of course.
So these I just gotta look out for. They're a lot more rare than jump canceling, I'd say. But it's still something to look out for. And it does give better OG. Like from here. Then I'm just doing that. But if I go forward, whoops, I messed it up. If I do the jump cancel forward, boom, now I'm right in your face and I'm super duper plus. One more thing I think we should go over is Vault PRC. That is something people are going to struggle with. That people do struggle with. Shit that I struggle with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Vault PRC is like the neutral skill, basically. Like maybe bar like I don't know those band revolvers Unisho was doing a few months in CEO, I think. Yeah, CEO. Vault PRC is gonna be like the neutral skip, and you're gonna see it from any Johnny that knows what they're doing.
Yep.
The thing about Vault PRC is that it's hard to tell you how to beat it because there are just times when you can't. I mean, Zato 6P is good, but it's not going to win every single time, you know? No. Especially if they throw a card immediately, because that's what most Johnnies are going to do. They're going to hold down the button, see what's going down, boom, immediate card crush. Then Johnny, actually, if you do here, crazy high low, and if I'm feeling a little crazy, it's also throws situation. So the way I'd say to beat Vault is that you'd have to know the spacing around it, like where they're doing Vault, because like if you block low, this super 6P-able. Like this is like any block string that they're doing ending in Vault, none of that is gonna be real. All very 6P-able, I believe anyway.
Oh, what the? Well,
okay, well that's new.
I've never seen that.
Anywho, yeah, Vault in these situations is not going to be real. Like if you're letting them get away with something like that, then you are giving up a massive opportunity. Yeah. But that's a lot more niche than just doing it from neutral. From full screen, I'd say that. Well, the thing is, Johnny can also. I'm not particularly good at it, if I'm being honest. He can do that. He can fast cancel it, and then that's full screen guard crush completely. So I'd say you're gonna see a lot of Vault PRC from this angle, very much this angle, because the card once it's released, hits you right at your feet. That's gonna stuff every 6P in the game. Yeah. And at that point, you just have to hold it. It's not really like okay. So here, about here, I'd say try to 6P when I go.
Oh shit, that's 2P.
The thing about Johnny is that the thing about Vault is that from these closer ranges, like right outside of Mistfinder, Vault tends to be like I said, not every time. Vault is not consistent. That's the thing. It's like very specific spacing. But around here, like around this area, if they're like trying to skip neutral as fast as they can, right around here, yeah, exactly. You have the right idea. This is 6P. So, but the thing is, like, if they're full screen, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
So I'd say this can go into the things we said about spacing earlier. Like you want to avoid KMF unless you're dash blocking. But the thing about KMF is that this is it. This is the animation.
Yeah. So
if you're like trying to approach defensively, I just cancel it into a button. So I don't really recommend trying to dash block KMF.
Yeah.
I would recommend trying to just play around it. Zato can do this especially well with Bodyguard. That Bodyguard is actually really important in the Johnny Zato matchup, even though it's not like most of the time. You won't always have Eddie. I'll always have Mistfighter. I'll put it like that. So
yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing.
Any other little things that you think that you can think of that you get away with in matches, like especially tower things that you do that might be fake that we haven't talked over already?
One thing I do a lot that's fake, that I'm a big fan of doing, especially because of the dash buffs, that dash back in, I was doing it before when I was showing off,
Yeah.
but that dash back in is, you do not want that to happen at all. So if I have like a situation parts set up, I do like this and I dash back in, you're giving me so many more buttons to press and so many more options.
Yeah.
By letting me get back in. Like that, boom, overhead. Or part, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Something like that, you know? So, and this was a thing I didn't do much pre-patch just because of how clunky his dash was. But because Lord Knight called it invisible, I like to downplay. I just call it unreactable. 15 frame dash is going to be... You know, you can't check that reliably. Yeah. Especially with the card setup. Because, like, you know, you see that guard, that's plus 24 sitting right at your feet. So, naturally, you're not going to want to press anything. So, I use that opportunity. Boom. Now I'm back in. And now I get more buttons. So, that's honestly more of a mental stack thing. And like I said before, that's what Johnny does. He's like mental stack the character, if I could put it like that. Because he's got so many things to worry about. And cards like the, I don't know what to say, the symbol of it?
Yeah.
It represents it, basically. All the things like I can do. You know, like that's low. Like, just do that again. If I'm feeling crazy, I don't even have to do that. I don't even have to do overhead immediately. I can just go into something else. So he's got so many options here. And it's scary to check. But the thing is, it's all fake. Like this dash back end, completely fake, like I said. But it might as well be real. Because who is gonna mash
when there's a card and yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so it might as well be real. And I think that's where a lot of frustration around Johnny stems from. Is that he's a character with a lot of mental stack, a ton of offensive options, he does have good tools. He's not the best character. He has good things going for him. So a character like that, with all that stuff going on, is gonna just like inherently annoying.
Gotcha.
Especially once you take into consideration all the downplaying Johnny plays. So
yeah, I hear you.
That combined with the things that he does have is going to be pretty annoying, and yeah, that's where I think a lot of the annoyance and a lot of the complaints around this character.
Yeah, a lot of fake stuff, but at the same time, a lot of mental stack that it's pretty hard to check. Or sorry, a lot of fake stuff that's a lot of fake stuff that's really hard to check. A lot of mental stack. And a lot of times the best option is just sitting there, which a lot of people in this game especially are just not comfortable doing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what was I gonna say? I was gonna say one more thing. I don't remember. Never mind.
I'll ask.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, you remember?
I will concede a little bit. Sometimes, like, well, actually, no, I already said this, I'm pretty sure. But when Johnny is just doing all this stuff, it'd be good to go over. When Johnny is like just doing this, sometimes you do want this.
Yeah.
Like these walk back ins.
Especially card resets, right? Like.
Yeah, card resets. Like Zato 2S,
yeah.
I believe would be good here because I'm waiting for you to do something. And his heavy buttons especially, you're never okay. 2H is actually terrible in block strings, and I hate it very much. Because if you just, little side note, if you just FD 2H, like it looks good until like you do 2H like this, boom, just whiffed. So if you're looking out for it, I mean, I'm going to be looking out for it because I know it's going to happen because 2H is that button. But if you're looking out for it, then like, I'm just saying 2H is bad.
Yeah.
If they're like, be very aware of the spacing when they're doing 2H and try to FD it because it puts Johnny in a weird spot where FD. Like, that's the best I can really do besides, like, doing this. So I'm minus, and I'm also, like, too close for comfort, really.
Yeah.
So if they're doing 2H a lot in their block strings, I just FD it out, because it makes it really awkward for them. Yeah, that's a little side note.
One thing I can think of for Johnny specifically that other people get tripped up about, a lot of times when Johnny does 6K, he either is forced to go into Innsanga or a Mistfinder back the low version. What is the RPS here? Because I know that if you do Innsanga, correct me if I'm wrong, you can 6P it. But if you 6P, you get smoked by the SMF.
This is okay. I shall do Innsanga. So get ready to 6P.
Oh, I messed up. There we go.
Yeah, Innsanga loses hard to 6P, especially if they like doing Innsanga mix-ups, because the startup frames of Roman Cancel are going to get counter hit most of the time. It's happened to me. So, yeah, the RPS there, I'd say, it's actually super easy once you know the RPS here is less RPS. It's not rock, paper, scissors. It's kind of just rock and scissors, really.
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned, that gets absolutely clobbered. 6P is absolutely okay. Ignore that. But yeah, 6P loses really hard. There. Now you get a full combo. But you see, that did a lot of damage. Okay. If you simply just walk back after 6H, maybe what? Okay, maybe this is a Zato thing, because it appears to be a Zato thing. I know, like Kai, for example, characters with those faster walk speeds can just walk out of it, and the situation doesn't even matter. So I do this, and then if it were Kai or like a faster character, it would whiff completely.
Yeah. Zato's the slowest, like forward and back walk. Like
oh. Okay.
Yeah,
well, that makes us a little. Yeah, that makes that a little hard to show. But that's a good visual example for it. So yeah, that dash back will lose to FD. If you would FD. No, it'll lose to FD, and if you don't FD, if you just hold backwards, it'll lose. On a faster character, that is.
Of course.
And I would say that trying to 6P in Innsanga isn't really worth it.
It's not worth it, yeah.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Because, if I don't use it, and if I don't send a unit here, you just get, a punish. You get a punish, right? If you try to 6P it. And that's not, amazing reward,
not even
Because, yeah, now you're kind of plus, and we're here. So, occasionally you will get a counter hit if they try to Roman cancel it early. But honestly, those mix-ups, well, while they are mix-ups, I'm being honest. This is my Johnny bias talking. Oh, not my bias talking. I have a name to uphold. But I'd say those mix-ups aren't really, compared to his other stuff, those mix-ups aren't really that awful.
Yeah.
If you would okay, so what he has off of Innsanga? Double overhead. That is plus, I believe. I'm sure there's a Johnny Labber that can correct me, but I've done this. It happened yesterday, a few times actually. I've done this and someone's mashed and I've absolutely clobbered them with close slash. So after the double overhead you after the double overhead you match. Whoops. Okay, maybe they just weren't mashing good enough. So we learned something new today. Oh. Yep. It is also minus. Now let me try to do a throw just to see what that happens.
Oh, sorry.
Whoops. That also loses. Okay, then I have no idea how those. How fast is Zato 5P? 5 frames. Okay. Weird. I guess they just didn't match fast enough. So this is, now we know, the more you know, this is fake. Cool.
I can press 3. Let me press 2P. My 2P is 6. Let me press 2P.
6. Okay. Here.
Oh, what the?
Also loses. Very interesting. Let me try to do my 2P. Because that's 5. 5. Oops. So that wins. Very interesting.
Oh, it beats my 5P as well. Yeah.
Okay, well, you learn something new every day. Anywho, I don't know. I didn't know that was the situation. I just assumed it won because I keep getting counter hits there. I was like, oh, I guess it must be plus. But apparently not. So
I believe that is. I'm trying to think. So I believe that is all the situations I can think of. If you can think of any other situations where the opponent, where people get put in a situation by Johnny, they're like, oh my gosh, right? And it's like, yo, it's not that bad. Anything else you can think of, or have we kind of touched up on everything?
Well, I was going to say one more mix-up that I'm personally fond of off of Innsanga is this.
Yeah.
High-low. A lot better than that double overhead, because even if it is blocked, like, just block it up here. Whoops. Whoops.
Oh, I thought you were going to do a high. Okay.
Nope. Okay. Here we go. That. It's a much better... Well, honestly, like, if you consider the knowledge that the other one's it's a better situation to be in.
Yeah.
Those are the mix-ups that happen off of Innsanga, and honestly, like if you're just like familiar with Johnny and you see them, you're not gonna have a very hard time blocking him. Actually, I can think of a this third one's easy.
Yeah.
It looks like that I stole that directly from Peppery Splash. I watched some of his VODs.
Yeah.
That's the third one, but that's actually pretty rare. You're not going to see a lot of Johnnies go for that. So what I'm trying to say here is that the mix-ups off of Innsanga aren't really that crazy. Like if you're... Well, they're mix-ups and mix-ups and mix-ups, but like if you're familiar with Johnny, like it's not gonna... They're not the worst thing he had. Like, it's not the worst. These mix-ups are not that good, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So about 6K, circling back to what this was all about, I would say on a character that isn't Zato, because this is the only one. I would just back up a little bit, because that's going to beat this, which catches a lot of people, and it's going to beat Innsanga.
The only thing you can do from this is miss finer dash forward.
I was just
yeah.
Yeah, I was about to cover this. This is the third super duper committal option, and you don't see a ton of people go for it. If I'm being honest, it's mostly just Innsanga, because it's so like if you like, I'm gonna do it and you just smash. See, try to do close slash too. That might work as well. See, it's super committal, and if you mess it up, and they know, you're gonna get cut. So that's why you don't see a lot of people go for it, just because there's so many things that can go. It could be thrown on reaction too. That's what you want.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going with this. It's that if you see them go for it, yeah, look at that. So if you see them go for it, you're gonna want to try to throw. And there's not much I can say besides it's not a very common thing to go for. And I wouldn't look for it until they do it once or twice, because you know, like I said, there's so many things but if they are doing it, if they are representing it, it's to be aware of.
Gotcha.
You just have to react, basically. But like I said, don't look for it until they do it, or if you're goated, react to it first try.
Gotcha.
Think more like just walking backwards.
Okay. And I guess, yeah, to sum it all up, if we had to put it on like a screen put a screen on the screen of everything, the most important key points, it's learn the RPS run raw flip, when he could go into flip, obviously, like you said, like off 2D, like, you know, 2D flip, like if you're getting knowledge checked by that, then like, you know, you gotta cope. So yeah, RPS off 6K, RPS off flip, RPS off Innsanga, playing more patient and kind of letting him not running into stuff, because when you start running into stuff by Johnny, you start to lose. So knowing when to mash, obviously, versus hard reset points like you said, misfighter step forward, or throwing a card in between your pressure, like hard resets like that. Looking out for those.
That's not something I tend to do, if I'm being honest. Like,
I don't think better Johnnies do it, but I think all levels of people will watch this, and I think it's definitely a thing you want to kind of scope out for. Yeah, of course.
One more thing, like just to add while we're being here, is that if they're like, you know, just like the anecdote for those people who, you know, struggle with it, they're like, you know, and Johnny pressing like immediately after here is gonna lose. Actually, I think we covered that already. Like anything Johnny can press after misfinder cancel is gonna lose.
Yeah,
pretty much, unless that's the other thing.
Yeah, I believe the frame data. Sorry to cut you off. I believe the frame data is off H normals he's -4, off S normals he's It's double digits, like 11 or 12 around there.
I believe it's 12.
12. It could be 11, but let's go with 12. Double digits. It's very minus. And then you'll never see a Johnny do like 5k stance cancel. And even if he does, think about it. If a S normal, like far slash or 2S is minus double digits, then a K normal is going to be, a K or P normal is going to be like even more minus than that. So
if you're doing this, you're trolling, basically.
Yes. You're trolling, right? Like the Johnny doesn't think you're good. He's just messing around with you. So again, if we had to put that screen on the screen of everything, playing patient, not running into buttons, playing around Mistfinder at the correct spacings, like we said earlier, not getting hard resetted by stuff like Mistfinder forward or card pressure or throwing a card, looking out for when you can ID out at him, especially in the corner versus some button interactions, knowing RPS around flip, RPS around 6k, no RPS around Innsanga, just RPSing in general. This obviously the post wall break situations. I think one thing we forgot to say about that is his safe jump loses to 9-framers, which is
true. That is very. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Something to mention. It does lose to 9-framers. So Soul DP, I believe Leo DP. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Trades with 4-framers and loses to 3-framers.
Trade with 4-framers and loses to there you go.
So for those 2 characters with 3-framer,
Chip, Soul,
Chip and Soul. Yeah, they don't have to hold it at all.
But yeah, I believe that is everything. I think we've been over a lot. Hopefully this clears up some of the air surrounding this character. Obviously, you can't play perfect in a match like consistently, and so there are some things you'll still get okie doked by. But hopefully this can help minimize it, especially to the newer player base or the casual player base. But I guess to end it off, an unrelated question: where do you put Johnny on a tier list? I must know.
Ooh, I had a feeling. It was coming.
I will ask. I'll entertain. Where do you see him?
Well, I do downplay a lot, but if I'm being honest, probably. I mean, Johnny still has issues, but the stuff that's good is good. You're very good. So I'd put him like high mid tier, like very much the upper echelons of high mid tier, B+ on a good day, A-, but mostly like a B+ high mid tier character.
Gotcha. Okay, and there we go. And to end it off, I will put Unbiased. I don't believe you stream.
No, not really.
Okay, so but I'll put your Twitch on the screen anyways if it's there.
Yeah. I've been thinking about getting into it, so always good to have.
There we go. I'll put his Twitch on the stream on the screen. I'll put his Twitch. I'll put his Discord in case you want to get in contact with him. Maybe there's some personal questions that you have. Maybe some weird interactions. Yeah. Maybe
I said something stupid, and all the Johnny Labbers are gonna be. Why did you say this?
Maybe there are some weird interactions that your character goes through versus Johnny specifically. So go ahead and ask him. I'm sure he'll be happy to reply to any messages he gets. So I'll put his Discord on the screen, and I'll obviously put his Twitter on the screen in case you want to get in contact with him on there and follow him over there and see what's going on with him. But yeah, that will do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for having me on.